Science Journal for Kids and Teens presents How Can Growing Seaweed Help Fight Climate Change? Read by Miranda Wilson. Abstract. Why is seaweed important? If you ask a fish, they might say that seaweed helps them hide from predators. A sea lion might say that seaweed forests are great places to find fish to eat. And people all around the world like to eat seaweed. Recently, people have started to talk about seaweed farming as a way to help with the climate crisis. Why? Because seaweed farming doesn't use very many resources. Growing it may even improve ocean health by providing habitat and food to sea creatures. Seaweed also absorbs carbon dioxide, or CO2, as it grows, so it could even help with climate change by reducing the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere. But just because it could help doesn't mean it will. We studied 5 different seaweed farming scenarios using a computer simulation. We found that growing and harvesting seaweed can help with climate change. The biggest impact would come from using seaweed products to replace common things that right now take a lot of carbon-intensive energy to make. Introduction. What does environmentally friendly mean to you? You might think of recycling programs, reusable bags, or windmills. You probably didn't picture seaweed. There are lots of things to like about seaweed. Seaweed can be delicious, like the nori used for sushi and maki rolls. Kelp forests and coastal oceans are home to animals like otters and porpoises. Seaweed can even help clean up the ocean by absorbing pollution from farm runoff. People have been talking lately about seaweed farming as a way to help fight climate change. The amount of carbon dioxide or CO2 in the atmosphere has gone up and up. This is because people burn so many fossil fuels for energy, like coal, gasoline, and oil. Carbon dioxide traps heat in the atmosphere, causing the Earth to warm up. That makes it harder for plants and animals to survive. So what can we do? We need to lower carbon dioxide emissions, and we need to find ways to remove carbon dioxide from the air. Seaweed farming could help with both of these things. A lot of the carbon dioxide in the air is absorbed by the ocean. When seaweed grows, it absorbs carbon dioxide from the water and turns it into biomass. This biomass can then be used in a variety of ways to remove the carbon from the environment. One thing people have proposed is sinking the biomass deep into the ocean. Others are working on seaweed-based products which have lower carbon footprints than many current products. Could using more seaweed products lower carbon dioxide emissions? What are the best things we could do with seaweed biomass to lower emissions? We think these are important questions to answer. In this image, you can see a seaweed farmer with her harvest in British Columbia, Canada. There is a line of seaweed running horizontal through the photo and hanging towards the ground. The woman is standing next to the line of seaweed. Methods. Our study focused on seaweed farming in British Columbia, Canada. Its long coastline has lots of areas and native kelp species suitable for farming. We labeled these places on a map. Here in Figure 1, you can see our study focused on the coast of British Columbia, Canada. We color-coded regions of the ocean that could support seaweed farming. Close means regions that are near towns or cities, while distant refers to regions that are very far away from towns. In the upper right, you can see an inset of North America with British Columbia outlined in red for reference. In the coastal waters on the map, you can see the combinations of distance and water depth in different colors. Dark green represents shallow and close regions. Light green is shallow and distant regions. Light blue is deeper but close regions, and dark blue is deeper and distant regions. You can see a 200-kilometer scale bar in the lower left-hand corner for reference. We came up with 5 scenarios to explore. Each scenario examined different combinations of answers to the questions. Where can we farm seaweed? A. Only in shallow water or in deep water too? And B. Close to towns or far away? How fast do we expect the seaweed to grow? A. Slowly, like in real seaweed farms near British Columbia, or B, quickly, imagining creative farmers come up with new techniques. What do we do with the seaweed after it's grown? A, let it sink and decompose? Drag it to the deep ocean and sink it? Or C, sell the seaweed to make useful products? We developed a mathematical model to explore these questions. It uses a set of equations to track how much carbon seaweed removes from the ocean when it grows. The model also tracks the carbon emissions from running the farm, processing the harvest, and transporting it. With our 5 scenarios, we looked at how seaweed could be used in different ways, like being stored in the deep ocean or making various replacement products like fertilizer, biofuel, and food. By comparing how much carbon is stored or replaced, we can calculate the carbon emissions avoided with the seaweed farmed. Results. Is growing seaweed in the ocean a good method for carbon dioxide removal? It turns out that it's not. In all our scenarios, the amount of carbon removed was less than the carbon emissions from seaweed farming. Growing seaweed and letting it sink in place can remove a little bit of carbon dioxide from the water, but not enough. We checked whether growing seaweed in more places on the map would help. We also looked at increasing the growth rate, imagining seaweed could grow more than 10 times as fast. We even tested the idea of dragging seaweed out to the deep ocean and sinking it there. That removes a bit more, but none of these things were enough to make up for emissions from production and transportation. Could using more seaweed products lower carbon dioxide emissions? Yes, indeed. By far, the biggest impacts come from avoiding carbon dioxide emissions. Using seaweed to replace more carbon-intensive products leads to much lower carbon emissions in the future. In our best scenario, using seaweed to replace other products avoids 10 times more carbon dioxide than just sinking it into the ocean. Here in Figure 2, you can see results from the mathematical model for 5 seaweed farming scenarios. The graph shows the carbon emissions from running the farm and processing the harvest in orange. The carbon removed from seaweed absorbing carbon dioxide can be seen in dark purple, and the carbon avoided by making seaweed products instead of others are in light purple. All numbers are given in teragrams, TG. 1 teragram is the same as 1 billion kilograms. In the graph, you can see the 5 scenarios on the x-axis, and on the y-axis, you can see the teragrams of carbon dioxide per year. Looking at the graph, did any of our scenarios have larger carbon removal than carbon emissions? Discussion. Our study shows that growing and harvesting seaweed can help with climate change and its impacts on the oceans, but it's not as simple as just growing more seaweed. Instead, the best thing we can do with seaweed to make a positive impact is to use it to replace other products. Why is that? Growing seaweed does not generate very much carbon dioxide, so using seaweed instead of another product made with fossil fuels means that the total carbon dioxide emissions can be lowered. Seaweed has many uses as a food. You can make pickles, dry it to make snacks, put it in soups, or even make cooking oils from it. It's not yet a common ingredient in Canada or the US, but it's a major crop in many Asian countries. Growing plants for animal feed is a big source of carbon emissions worldwide. The right kinds of seaweed can be healthy for many farm animals. Using seaweed for animal feed would also make it so that less land would need to be used for farms. And the uses of seaweed aren't limited to foods. It can be used to make fertilizer, plastic, shampoo, and even fuel. Conclusion. There are lots of exciting ideas for how we slow down climate change. Renewable energy like windmills and solar panels let us make electricity without burning fossil fuels. Electric cars make it possible to drive without burning gasoline. From our study, we've learned that seaweed products can be a good way to help lower carbon dioxide emissions. But as with any product, it's going to take a lot of creativity for people to find the best ways to use seaweed in their daily lives. Think about your day-to-day activities at home and at school. How many things can you find that could be replaced with seaweed products? Thank you for listening to this recording. This work has been adapted from the original peer-reviewed paper in the journal Scientific Reports published on July 1, 2024. Research conducted by Edward Greger and others from SciTech Environmental Consulting and the Institute for Resources, Environment, and Sustainability at the University of British Columbia in Canada. See the full list of authors and their affiliations in the accompanying PDF. Please visit our website, sciencejournalforkids.org, for more free science teaching resources. Hey everyone, we're a small nonprofit and all of our resources are free. So if you like what you see, please subscribe and share.